Before you jump into the next stock that everyone is hyping up, stop and ask yourself this question. Does the business have an economic moat or not? Dude, I was about to make a dad joke and saying, stop, drop, and roll, you're on fire, but I didn't. In this video, we'll quickly go over all of the various economic moats a business can possess. And in part 2, I'll share which moat I think is the strongest and which moat is the weakest. And no, it's not the San Francisco 49ers. Stop being so immature. All right, so what exactly is an economic moat? By the way, it's a term that Warren Buffett daddy coined. The economic moat is what keeps competitors from pulling up and eating your lunch. It's an advantage that protects a company's profits over time. What I'm trying to say to you is that if a business does not have an economic moat, then it does not have protection from competition. And surely with due time, they're going to lose market share. Here's a working example with GoPro. Now, prior to Meta's smart glasses and smartphones becoming waterproof, GoPros, they were the go-to camera for vacations, vlogging if you're backpacking through Thailand, and adventures in general. This is a company that used to be super high quality and everyone love them. I'm talking about at one point they were $86 a share back in September of 2014, but ever since then they've just been dropping like it's hot. Why is that the case? Why are they a penny stock, $1.46 a share? Because if we jump on over to their P&L and take a look at their gross sales, ever since they IPO'd, their revenue situation is a hot mess because they do not have a defense. They don't have an economic moat. Jump on over to their free cash flow and it looks just as hideous. It's up and down, and right now it's negative $64 million. So they're burning cash in order to run the operations. So needless to say, an economic moat is super important. And by the way, there's 8 economic moats in total. And the first one that I want to talk about is the intangible assets economic moat. Basically, it allows you to be the only one to do what you do. So when we talk about intellectual property, hi Disney, when we talk about licensing, when we talk about patents, by regulation and law, you are protected. Now, having said that, I want to talk about Novo Nordisk. Their GLP-1 patents wear off this year, 2026, for Brazil, India, and China. So when we talk about their market share, it's about to get eroded because the generics are about to flood the market. And believe it or not, at one point in time, Novo Nordisk, they were the only ones that were able to do what they were doing. And then their competitors rolled out an alternative weight loss product. So the chemical compound is not going to be one for one to Ozempic and Wegovy, but it does the exact same thing. Hi, Eli Lilly, I'm talking about you. Hi, Hims and Hers Health, I'm talking about you. One point, Novo Nordisk, $142 a share. But since then, friends and family, they are just falling like a rock. And the next economic moat is scale. As a manufacturer or producer, if you have the capacity in the supply chain to produce more than your competitor, that's an edge. Say company 1 owned by Pepperoni Nipples over here, they have 20 factories making the exact same thing as Saucer Cup Nipples over here, but he only has 1 factory. Because he has the ability to flood the markets with his products, when we think about supply and demand, they're going to win. And that's actually how it pans out for Novo Nordisk a couple years ago, because they had a supply chain shortage of their Ozempic drugs because they didn't know that it was going to be such a hit, such a success. So they only had a couple manufacturing hubs in Europe and it could not meet the demand of the customers. And that's when Eli Lilly came to eat their lunch, because Eli Lilly's pharmaceutical supply chain head over shoulders better than Novo Nordisk. And when Novo Nordisk ran into that speed bump, Eli Lilly rolled out their own Zepbound and they just took the customers away from Novo Nordisk. And look at what happened in 5 years, 539% into the green. So when we talk about a very in-demand hot product or service, scale is a really good competitive advantage economic moat. And the next one is the ecosystem moat, where essentially a business becomes a one-stop shop for all of your needs. The best one that I can think of is Apple. You go to Apple, they take care of your cloud. Apple also has a streaming platform. They have the iPhone, the MacBook. And once you are a customer of Apple, you're not going to want to get an Android or a Microsoft or a PC equivalent, because the Apple products, they work better when you use another Apple product. An ecosystem moat. Another one that I can think of is Tesla, because not only do they make the EV itself, but they also produce solar panels. So you can use that to charge your EV at home, but they also offer the Tesla car insurance. so everything is in-house. Another one off the top of my head is United Health Group, because it's a one-stop shop for all of your health needs. Pharmacy, insurance, providers, hospitals, clinics, and a company that has copied the United Health playbook is CVS, and for the past 1 year, they're up by 78%. To be a fully integrated healthcare provider, it prints cash. And the next economic moat is the network effect. The product or service in hand becomes more valuable as it gains adoption across the various stakeholders, such as social media, like WhatsApp, Instagram, Airbnb, eBay, Visa, MasterCard, or even Uber. Because as more drivers join Uber, riders will naturally gravitate to using Uber. Because think about it, better availability brings more demand, which brings more drivers. The compounding loop is a network effect at work. Also, shorter wait times. In my personal experience between Lyft and Uber, for Lyft, you gotta wait an additional 5 to 8 minutes for the exact same trip because there's not enough drivers, which is kind of weird because why not just do both at the same time? If you're a driver, have your Uber, have your Lyft app open at the same time and see what pops in. I don't know. And then if you want to take it a step further, you could also open up DoorDash and do 3 at the same time and see what pours in. Although that would be a little complex and a sweaty situation if you get requests from all 3 apps at the exact same time. Then how do you prioritize? I don't know. So maybe it's not a good idea. And then the next economic moat, friends and family, is high switching costs. By the way, if you want me to make a deep dive video on Uber, let me know. It's a company that I've personally been looking into this past weekend, and it has piqued my interest. But anyways, also known as the hassle factor, because it becomes too expensive, time-consuming, or risky in order to switch to a competitor. The best one that I can think of is Cisco and their outdated IT infrastructure. Yes, I'm fully aware that it's not the best, but once they're integrated into your ecosystem of running your enterprise, your S&P 500 company, you're not going to want to shut down the operations to switch to the competitor or rival. You're just gonna stick with Cisco. Because when you think about the upper leadership in a business operation, they literally manifest a mantra: if it's not broken, then don't fix it. So they're just gonna stick with Cisco, even if it's not the best. And when we think about Grandma Jenny, who uses an iPhone, and she has been using an iPhone for the past 10 years, she's never gonna wanna switch to an Android or a Samsung. Even if there's software apps that make the transition seamless and easy, she's gonna dismiss it as too much of an hassle. And I feel like that's kind of true for the most of us. If you started out in the Android ecosystem, more likely than not, you're still going to be using a Samsung or a Google Pixel. But in college, if you got an iPhone, 15 years later, you're probably still using an iPhone. Maybe not the same generation, but an iPhone nonetheless. Now, this is completely unrelated, but I have to let you know. If you're going through a tough season right now, you gotta keep going. Don't give up. And don't give in to short-term emotions. You might be pissed off, frustrated, or even anxious or worried, but I'm telling you that it's not the end of your story right now. Even at 58 years old, it is not too late for you to make a change in your life for the better. So please stay in the fight. It gets better. Believe me when I say that. Because in my early 20s, dude, I did not think I was gonna turn 35 one day, but here we are, and now I'm thriving. And that's why you can call me an idiot or delusional, but I truly believe in the power of your mind. The more that you focus on positive things and optimistic thinking, your life literally starts to change, little by little. If you're always complaining, cynical, and negative, dude, your life can never be positive. You can't have a quote-unquote good life if you don't have a grateful heart. Does that make sense? Anyways, I'll catch you guys in part 2 because there's more that we need to talk about. See ya.